be water systems for nearly 10 years, and their attempts to introduce this into the marketplace, a very, very conservative marketplace for disinfection control. So when I heard recently that they'd succeeded in getting into quite a number of hospital kitchens around Melbourne and even other large kitchen areas like the MCG, I was pretty impressed by that. It just shows that there is an acceptance, both technically but also commercially, of this as a solution, and I think therefore it's got great prospects for the future, the technology to be introduced very much more widely, which we hope it does, because sustainably it's what we want to see. The disinfection regime, if you like, is quite expensive, and the chemicals involved in some cases are undesirable in the bigger picture of the sustainable environment. So we've been involved in that for a number of years, looking for, again, using electrolysis, but in different ways, in that context, with different ways to supply a more sustainable approach, if you like, to this bigger and bigger need for disinfection for the food industry. And I think, in my experience, the electrolyzed water is the simplest, the cheapest, and by far the most sustainable that we've come across for this purpose. The concept then becomes very large. We're talking about very large tanks of these disinfecting chemicals that can be relatively readily prepared, used, and then when they're spent, so to speak, their action is spent, by simply combining them with the other part of the solution, if that hasn't been used separately. What one has left then is just salty water, which it has to be one of the simplest things to dispose of. If you compare that to traditional disinfecting agents and cleansing agents, all of which are fossil fuel-based chemicals, which are quite complex in their own way and are quite difficult for the environment to deal with, and we often see the impact of that in rivers and creeks and so on, then this is by far a more sustainable approach to this whole industry, if you like, of disinfection. Well, I think the opportunities are huge. In the case of electrolyzed water, this is a very, very inexpensive technology. I mean, it's simply water, salt, and electricity, and that it would be difficult to beat that in terms of a chemical disinfection approach. So the impact of that ultimately has to be massive on this whole industry. The electrolyzed water to create sanitizing agent, so to speak, is extremely sustainable. There can be nothing more simple and sustainable than that.